Okay, here's some footage from my week's stay at Southwest Rocks, where I went up with a few friends and we spent a week doing nothing but fishing. It was a great time. This video is probably going to be a bit longer than the 5 minutes I had originally planned, but we'll just see how we go. Anyway, this is day one and I'm heading out, and day one's now over. We didn't have any success, we didn't really know what we were doing, we didn't really know how the fishery worked there, so we weren't able to get any live bait or catch anything. We're back at the boat ramp here. There's my mate Josh, and yeah, it was a fun day, but no fish. So, and here we are, day two, trying again. So we've got some advice from the other guys that had success and some locals, and we're heading out trying to get bait fish at the moment. And here I am with my sabiki, about to drop that down, try for some bait.
Straight across there, by the way. Probably right in front of you.
Finding the bait was a bit tricky at first.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah, day two we had a bit more success. We found a little bit of bait, and then it was just a matter of getting the big pelagics to chomp on it. And we didn't have any success with that on day two. So I think we've jumped ahead to day three. I think this is day three now. I didn't do a whole lot of filming each day, so it's a little bit confusing. By the way, I know everyone was giving me a hard time about my hat. I like my hat, except I did stand on my hat, so that's why it looks a little worse for wear. So yeah, I was a bit upset about that. I put it next to my kayak when I was setting up, and yeah, I stood on it, and the straw hat didn't love that. So anyway, there's Josh in the right hand corner. We're both trying to find the fish at this point. Alright, I think yep, here I am. I'm onto my first real fish here. So I got my live bait down, that all went successful, and something has chomped on it. So I'm pretty excited.
I'm making progress on it, it's not a shark.
A few of the guys had hooked sharks. I hadn't hooked any sharks at this point, but quite a few of the guys had, so I was a little bit worried that I'd hooked a shark. I wanted a tuna or a spotty mackerel.
Got head shakes, Josh.
And yeah, it wasn't fighting like a shark, so good signs. I think we're about halfway through the fight here. My GoPro was actually flat at this point. I'd done too much filming of nothing.
I'm going. I don't think so. Nah. It's a spotty.
So yeah, this was a really exciting moment. So chucked him down, got the hook out of his mouth. He was in pretty good condition. Let him go and he shot off like a bullet. And now we've moved on to the next day. Just a bit of sailing this day. I don't think I had too much success fishing. Pretty sure I've got 2 live baits out at this point. Yep, and we gave up on that. I picked up Josh and we went out sailing. We went about 15 k's offshore. And tried a few different fishing locations. No success that day. It was very, very rough. It's a lot rougher than it looks in this footage. It's always surprising how flat it looks on the GoPro, but it was a bit hairy out there. But we had a lot of fun anyway. I think we've got some footage from Josh's camera coming up as well. There's another Hobie kayak in the background sailing. There was 3 of us in total that went out 15 k's. So, yeah, it was good. We're on the way back in now. Right now we're just deciding whether we're going to stay out and do a bit of fishing when we get back to the usual fishing spot, or if we're going to head in. But it was very rough. Again, it doesn't look nearly as rough as it was in the footage, but yeah, it was a bit uncomfortable for fishing. I'm sitting out on the outrigger there to keep the kayak as flat as possible. It was digging in quite a lot on the left side there. It was slowing us down. So putting my weight out on the right side there helps level it out a bit and we can go at full speed. We're doing about 15 kilometers per hour there, 15 to 20 at the peak. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. And you cover a bit of distance pretty quickly. Everything's getting drenched at the moment. The water is 27 degrees, so it doesn't matter too much. Here are some of the big waves chasing us. That swell was so much bigger than it looks on the GoPro. Yeah, we did about 2 hours of this heading back in. We were trolling our live baits, but they ended up being dead baits before too long. It was just too rough and too fast for them to keep up, so we gave up on that. And I think we're up to another day now. So this is be early in the morning, probably about 6 o'clock, 6:30 maybe. Heading out to the fishing grounds, and there you go, I picked up my first, I think that's a little mac tuna. I chucked him on and he didn't last too long. So you put him on my heavy rod and he swam straight down. It's about 35 meters deep, the water here. And he went straight down to a little reef there. And yeah, wasn't too long before something decided to take a bite out of him. You'll probably see that in a moment. I'm just getting the hooks into him at this stage. He's gone a bit berserk, it makes it a little difficult. But understandable that he probably doesn't want to have a few hooks chucked in him. So I'm just trying to do that without putting the hooks in myself. That's always a bit of a challenge on a kayak. They are quite large, very sharp hooks. Basically everything here we had to catch on live bait. So the smaller fish like this guy here, they will take soft plastics, but the bigger fish just weren't interested. Josh's theory was that there was just too much bait, too many liveys around, so they just weren't that interested in soft plastics and lures. So when he goes, flip the bail open and just let him swim right down, and they take off like a rocket, those things. So he'll be peeling tons of line off as he heads down. You can see one of the other kayakers off in the distance. He'll be heading out as well. And today I took out just the hull of the kayak with one outrigger on the left. So one armour. The one on the right I took off. It's quite stable like that. You definitely couldn't tip it over. I'm getting some more bait here. So this is my little bait rod.
I'm on the something.
Actually, I haven't got any bait on. I'm getting my bait reel in. That little mac tuna has been smashed by a shark. You can hear the reel going off. It's pulling so hard I can't get it out of the rod holder. Tightening up the drag a bit because it is a very big fish, whatever I've hooked here. Likely a large shark. This was the moment I was talking about on the live stream when the shark towed me out. You can see we're quite far from land already here. And I don't think at this point this guy even knew he was hooked. So this battle went for about an hour, just over an hour.
I think it's probably a shark.
He's decided to take off a bit. So that's a 5500 reel. The drag's up very tight, 50-pound braid. So it's a big animal. This is probably about, yeah, this is towards the end of the fight. This would be over an hour at this point, so I'm miles out. It's about 60 meters of water here. I've tightened the drag all the way up, and the line just broke.
Lost it.
I was kind of relieved that happened, to be honest, because that was probably many, many more hours in that fight.
There's a lot of marks on the sounder here.
So back to bait fishing. I'll be back on the reef here.
Oh, look at that, mate.
There you go. Whole heap of slimies.
That's going to take some untangling.
When you get a whole lot like that, they sort of tangle everything up. But anyway, I was happy to have them because they're great bait. And that's Josh again. There you go, I've got one of the slimies on, send him down. From memory, I think a shark hits that one, so I get 2 shark hookups in a row. That wasn't too much fun, and that's a lighter rod as well. This is a little portable live well. Chuck the fish in there and they stay alive all day while you're moving around. It's very compact, it works well. So I'm just filling that up with the other 4 slimies that I just caught. That should keep me fishing for a few hours.
Better not be another shark.
Unfortunately, it was another shark.
Feels like a shark. This one's got wire.
This one was another big shark here. Didn't make much headway on this one either. He just kept pulling and pulling and pulling and taking more line. This will be near the end of the fight. I'm tightening up the bail at the moment. Getting over it. They're just too powerful for these lighter rod and reel setups. Right now, it'd be towing me along at about 5 kilometers per hour. I'm pretty much going wherever he wants me to go.
This has to be a shark, alright? Nah, just keeps taking more. It's got a lot of braid out there.
You always hope it's something like a big cobia, but most of the time they're sharks. There was a lot of them there.
Away for moral support, Steve.
Thanks, mate, I'm going to need it. Still pulling pretty hard. I got a little bit back, but then it took off again.
Yeah, how it goes.
He's changed direction though, he's come back towards you.
So, gave up on that. The GoPro ended up going flat. This is another guy that we were with. His name was Taz. He had a similar kayak to me, but it was a single person kayak. Mine's a tandem. And he's got a spotty mackerel on here. So we'll see him just get it up to the side of the kayak. It's the problem with the GoPro, they're very wide angle, so although I'm sitting very close to him, it looks far away. And I can't really risk getting too much closer to him for a better shot, because if the fish goes under my kayak, he'll lose it. But anyway, he's basically got it at the back of his kayak now. You can see it splashing. That was a pretty big spotty, this one. But he let that go because by this stage we had plenty of food. There was about 8 guys and we ate mackerel every night pretty much, mackerel and cobia. So I think after day 2 we didn't keep any more fish because we had plenty. I didn't keep any of my fish, neither did Josh. We released everything. The other boys caught plenty. I've hooked something here, but it's wrapped around my tip, so I'm just fixing that and back into the fight. I think it's just a little bait fish, maybe a bonito. Next year I'll take some wipes so I can, there you go, that's a, yeah, I think it's a bonito. I'll take some wipes so I can clean the camera, because a few times it was quite rough going out. Once you get the salt water on the lens, there's not a lot you can do about it. Anyway, I used that as bait.
That's alright.
Josh just caught a Big Mac tuna. And I think I'm about to hook up one in a moment.
Yep.
So I think my rod goes off the one, well, it'll be on my left. Yeah, I decided to try and get some bait and the rod goes off.
Oh, I'm on as well, Josh. Josh.
So this was a lot of fun. I made a mistake getting that rod out because then I just made more mess for myself, but anyway, it didn't turn out to be too much of a problem.
This thing's pulling like a freight train. Did yours pull hard? A lot of head shakes?
This was the first Mac tuna I'd hooked, so I was pretty surprised by how hard it went, because they're not massive, they're decent, but they're not huge. And yeah, they go hard. They are a tuna, I guess. These took about 15 minutes to get up, so we've cut towards the end. It's right up at the kayak now.
It's a monster, Josh.
I was pretty pleased with it.
It's pretty big.
They're blood bags, these things. They get a little cut in them and they just bleed like crazy. But anyway, I think it's probably going to be okay. If not, it's a good meal for a shark. But anyway, I let him go pretty quickly. So hopefully he did alright. He shot off. So hopefully he lived alright. So that was a lot of fun. One of the highlights, and I think I've hooked into another fish here as well. Yep, there we go. For this one I moved onto the trampoline. It's a bit more comfortable, especially when the fish is going backwards behind you. Unfortunately, because of this, you don't get to see much of it, so I cut that short. I've got him up at the side here. I'm just going to pull him onto the kayak. Yeah, this was a decent sized spotty mackerel. Just going to get the hook out with some pliers. Just making it hard for me to hold him. There you go, and throw him back. And we're on to another spotty mackerel. I got about 5 this on this day. I think this was the 4th day, 4th or 5th day. As you can see, I've got smeary sort of lens, so more salt water on the lens again. Bit annoying that. Next year I'll get some, Josh has some wipes that he uses, a special kind of wipe that works well to get rid of the salt water and doesn't leave any streaks or anything. I was a bit of an amateur here, because this was my 5th one of the day. I tried to grab the leader and bring him on early, So it didn't break that time, he took off. There he goes. But I get him back to the side of the kayak in a minute. I again grab the leader, which isn't a good idea to do without gloves on. I caught him on the heavier rod, so I was able to bring him in quite quickly, and he was still very green. As I grab the leader, the line snaps when he tries to take off. About here. There you go, broke it off. So I should have just tried to grab his tail. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And I'm heading back in. So as you can see in the afternoon, the wind tends to get up a bit, so it's good for sailing along. Don't have to do too much pedaling. Quite relaxing if you like that thing, which I do. Just adjusting the sail there for optimal speed. And now I've turned, I'm tacking towards the boat ramp. My left hand there's on the rudder control. So it's pretty easy to steer these things. And I think this is a new day. Yes, it would be, because I've reconfigured the kayak. I've got the left armour on, I haven't got the right one on, no sail because of that. It was a more calm, well, the weather was predicted to be calmer on this day. I think it picked up again in the afternoon, but we went in and had some lunch. So here I am just trying to work out where's the best spot to set up. Probably haven't got any bait yet or anything, so I'm still looking for that on the sounder. Actually, that's right, I didn't have my sounder that day because I forgot the bracket for it, the mount. So I was flying blind. I was sort of relying on the other guys. Josh is to my left there, he found the bait here. So I pulled up next to him and I'm just trying to get some bait. It's very difficult without a sounder. There's boats all around us. That sort of alarm sound a second ago would have been a boat turning the key to probably start up his engines in a moment. But yeah, there was a lot of boats on this spot trying to get some bait fish so they could fish for the rest of the day.
Got some more. Yeah.
Still collecting bait by the looks of it.
Just about stuffed my tube.
I'll have to get a second camera for next year's trip so I can film both sides of the kayak. It was kind of annoying, I didn't know which side to put the camera, because this side you can see when I catch the fish, so the angle's not great. But you can't actually see me fighting it.
Another big yakka. Coming slimy.
So here we
Yeah,
go, we're
you're right,
probably fishing now. We've got our live baits on the hook and we're hunting for the big guys. I'm winding quite vigorously there. That's the problem when your bait's 40 meters down. It takes quite a bit of winding to get it back up to the surface. Looks like I'm doing, yeah, I'm still gathering bait while I have one out the back. So that was a slimy. Here's some footage from Josh's GoPro. As you can see, his lens is much cleaner than mine, so you get a much nicer shot. We both got the exact same GoPro, it's the latest model. Josh is just checking if his is turned on. Yeah, mate, it's on. Alright. Oop, the spotty's just taken off on him. You can see me in the background there, cheering him on.
Come on up, buddy.
Josh messes around with this for quite a while, so I think I cut the footage short. He struggles on this kayak to sort of show the fish off as well. He just let it go up the side of the boat. It's kind of hard to deal with. Yeah, really nice clear footage. Hopefully I can do a bit better next year. Here's Josh again, getting blown away by a Mac tuna.
Fuck yeah.
I think he's pretty happy with that. It's kind of rewarding when you pedal around for a few hours and then finally you get a hookup. And then your arms do nothing but hurt. It's very difficult fighting these things from a kayak. Can't use your legs or anything like that to help put pressure on the fish.
It's a tuna. It's a Mac tuna. Decent size.
There I am in the background again. Decent sized Mac tuna. And this is the final day. It bucketed down the final day, and Josh and I thought, well, we've got a 14-hour drive, we can leave now, we can go fishing. And we both looked at each other and said, let's go fishing. So here we are, and we got the bait pretty quickly, and as soon as we put a bait down, Josh hooked up. This was the only fish we got though. It was pretty miserable. We caught this one and went in. At this point we couldn't see land either, so it was a bit dicey, but we got back okay. The actual seas were quite nice, they were reasonably flat. The rain tends to flatten them out a little bit. But it had got quite cold this day as well, it had cooled down significantly.
Oh, fuck, it was a cobia. That'd be amazing. I agree. Either way, it's good fun, whatever it is. Yeah. Can't see it. Can't see shit, Captain. Can't see it. That's indeed.
We were still managing to have fun despite the dire conditions.
Like a blue bottle we put by though.
Nearly got it up. I could have cut this footage a lot shorter, but I know there'll be some of you guys that want to see a bit more of the fight rather than just the cut to the end of it. And I assume only those of you that are interested in fishing will watch this anyway, so yeah, I don't know if I can be bothered making two versions. Come on, Josh.
It's starting to pinwheel a bit. There he is. It looks big from here. Coming up now. Gotta be a Mac.
I had a little bit of trouble grabbing this guy because we couldn't quite get him where we needed him.
Oh, you got a sinker on it as well, down. Bring him over here. Yeah. Come on, Dad.
GoPro audio is struggling a little bit. Camera's getting covered in water. Here we go, we got him now.
Nice one.
Anyway, we got the hook out pretty quickly. This one didn't bleed much at all. In fact, I don't think it bled at all, really. I was trying to get the hook out without getting it in my hand, but in the end we had to use the pliers. They got pretty tough mouths, these things.
Should be nearly out.
Don't drop the rod in the water. Good catch, Josh. And off he goes. And that was pretty much the end of our trip. So it was a really good week. And I'm really keen to do it again next year. Anyway, hope you guys enjoyed that.
Where we came from?
I'll catch you again later.
How are we gonna? Have you got GPS on your phone or something?
Nah, I don't have my phone with me.
That's
Just head back that way.